Winter in New York is a strange symphony of light and cold. Skyscrapers still shine with brilliance. LED billboards in Times Square flash with razor-sharp images, and the streets remain bustling with people who never seem to sleep. But behind that vibrant picture lies a forgotten corner of the city, a cold and shadowed neighborhood tucked away behind the subway tracks. That place lies just beyond Atlantic Avenue, Barclay Center, where old subway trains still rumble past, growling like the city's weary sigh. There, the bricks have faded, and the 3- or 4-story buildings from the 1960s loom gray under a thin layer of snow that settles on their worn-out eaves. The air smells of gasoline, wet trash, and stale cigarette smoke. By day, the noise of life comes like angry knocks on the ear. Honking cars, shouts from arguing neighbors through second-floor windows, and the crash of glass bottles under hurried footsteps. By night, the place falls silent and bitterly cold, like it's been left behind by the rest of the world. In a 4th-floor apartment with a cracked window lives Eli, a 12-year-old boy with a wiry frame, skin weathered by the winter wind, and brown eyes that shine like little flames whenever he smiles. He lives with his mother, Maria, a Puerto Rican woman who once worked as a waitress but has been homebound for years due to chronic heart disease. Their apartment is barely 300 square feet. The ceiling bears stains from leaks that have lingered since last winter. In the corner of the narrow kitchen stands a broken gas oven, long out of service, replaced by a cheap electric burner that only works if Eli taps it twice. The wallpaper peels like tired skin, and on the worn-out table sit a few packs of instant noodles, an expired carton of milk, and a glass jar with a handful of coins, everything they have at the start of this month. And yet, somehow, the place doesn't feel entirely cold. It has warmth, not from the faulty heater, but from Maria's gentle eyes every time she looks at her son, from the hand-knit blanket she made for him last winter, and from the soft jazz that plays on their battered radio, especially Blue and Green, the song she plays every night before bed. Eli is nothing like the kids from Manhattan's Upper West Side. He doesn't have a smartphone, no private desk, no video games, and certainly no takeout dinners. But he does have something precious, a heart that believes in tomorrow. Every morning, Eli wakes at 5 a.m. before the sky turns blue, while the chill cuts through thin blankets like blades. He slips out of bed quietly so he won't wake his mother, pulling on an oversized second-hand coat and worn-out canvas shoes. Out on the tiny balcony leans a rusted, squeaky bicycle, the only thing left behind by his father, who died in a traffic accident on a late-night shift. To Eli, that bicycle is not just metal. It's a friend, a pair of wings. He wheels it out of the building and hops on to begin his paper route. He covers 3 neighborhoods, Fulton Avenue, Dean Street, and Nevins. The roads are dark, potholed, littered with broken bottles and frozen leaves. But to Eli, they are familiar paths like trails through the woods for a boy with a mission. Each corner he turns carries the smell of toasted bread from the cafe at the block's end, a scent that makes his stomach twist with hunger. But he doesn't stop. He knows every paper delivered means a few more cents in the jar at home. And every cent means milk for his mother, or a small portion of the heart medication their insurance refuses to cover. One misty morning, he was nearly hit by a pickup truck while crossing an intersection. The driver didn't stop, just honked angrily and sped away, never realizing the boy trembling on that old bicycle hadn't eaten since the night before. But Eli didn't cry. He just gripped the handlebars tighter and pedaled harder, as if his whole future depended on every spin of the wheel. By the time he returned home, the apartment was still cold, and his mother still lay weakly in bed. He made her a cup of ginger tea, the only thing left in their pantry, and sat beside her, softly humming a lullaby she once sang to him. Sol solicito, caliente un poquito. Every day was a quiet battle, yet in Eli's heart there burned a small light that refused to die, the belief that tomorrow could be better than today. He loved his mother with a devotion that didn't need words. Everything he did, no matter how small, was for the hope that she would live longer. He knew that someday he would leave this neighborhood, not to escape it, but to return and rebuild it. When the morning light crept through the dusty windows of the old apartment block, Eli had just returned from his early paper route. Dew still clung to the bike's handlebars, and his canvas shoes were soaked through. The apartment remained quiet, save for the soft breathing of his mother from the bedroom. Eli entered the kitchen, wiped his hands with an old towel, then checked the mailbox. Nothing but scattered flyers. He spent a few minutes sitting on the floor in front of his old bike, which he affectionately called Rusty. The frame was riddled with rust, the paint chipped away by time. To most, it was just a worn-out relic, something destined for the junkyard. But to Eli, Rusty was a companion. It was the last thing left from his father, a man who died in a late-night accident. Rusty was more than a bike. It was a pair of wings, a part of him. Every night, Eli carefully wiped Rusty clean with a patchwork cloth his mother had sewn from a torn fleece. He checked the tires, oiled the chain, and patched up broken parts using wire and bits scavenged from alleys. No one had taught Eli how to repair bikes. He had learned from watching mechanics through dusty shop windows 3 blocks away and from trial and error when the chain fell off mid-route or the brakes gave out on a downhill slope. Rusty wasn't just transportation. It was Eli's spirit in motion. When he rode, he felt free. The wind in his hair, the sun breaking over the horizon, and the muted sounds of a half-sleeping city made him feel like he was part of something larger. It whispered to him that the world had space for dreamers like him. After preparing tea for his mother and eating the last dry slice of bread in the cupboard, Eli rushed off to school. His public middle school near Nevin Station stood between 2 decaying tenements. The walls peeled with age, the playground was a cracked slab of concrete with rusted benches. But to Eli it was a place where, for a few hours, he got to be a kid. He sat quietly at the back of the classroom. He rarely spoke and had few friends, but his teachers recognized his sharp mind and quiet determination. Eli excelled in literature and science. Math was tougher, but he never gave up. One day, his teacher, Miss Carter, called on him during class. "Eli, what do you want to be when you grow up?" The room fell silent. Eli looked out the window, where a sparrow perched on a sagging power line. Then he answered softly, "An engineer, so I can build bridges. A bridge for my mom to walk across one day." The silence deepened, this time with a different weight. Miss Carter smiled, and her voice grew warm. "Then you hold on to that dream, Eli. Don't ever let it go." After school, Eli didn't always go straight home. He often stopped at an old pharmacy on Atlantic Avenue, run by an elderly Mexican man named Mr. Miguel. Eli would ask him about medicine prices, discount programs, and the cheapest way to fill his mother's prescriptions. On some days, Mr. Miguel let him wait in the back room, offering a cup of tea and a few leftover cookies. "You're a good boy, Eli," Miguel once said. "Not everyone would do what you do." But Eli just shook his head. I just want my mom to feel better, he said quietly. One afternoon, he picked up her medicine as snow started to fall. Every turn of Rusty's wheels carved a line in the white dust, and every turn marked a heartbeat of urgency in Eli's chest. His mother was waiting. Without the medicine, she would struggle to breathe. Without it, she might suffer another attack that night. At night, when everything fell silent, Eli would lie beside his mother and listen to her shallow breathing. In his mind, he saw images of a long bridge made of iron and glass connecting the rundown neighborhood to a better New York. The kind of New York that had libraries, museums, and hospitals that welcomed people like them without cost. He dreamed of his mother walking across that bridge, wearing a beige wool coat, smiling under warm, golden light. Rusty rolled beside her, smooth and silent, and waiting at the end of the bridge was an older Eli, taller, confident, wearing a light blue engineer's jacket, ready to welcome her home. Eli's life remained a steady rhythm of hardship, quiet resilience, and deep love. But within it burned an unwavering fire, fed by his mother's love, an old bicycle, and a dream no one could steal. That afternoon, the spring rain poured down, relentless, cold, and seeping into every crack of the crumbling bricks. Eli had just returned home after an after-school tutoring session. He rushed through the door, seeing the kitchen light still on, but heard no response from his mother. Inside the bedroom, she was curled up, coughing uncontrollably. Her face was pale, and sweat covered her forehead. "Mom, are you okay?" Eli asked in panic, his hands trembling as he touched her forehead. It was burning hot. She didn't have the strength to reply, only gasps for breath and eyes clouded with pain. Without hesitation, Eli grabbed the old landline phone, kept for emergencies, and dialed 911. It was the first time in his life he called an ambulance. As the paramedics lifted his mother onto the stretcher, Eli followed beside her, holding her cold hand. He had only managed to lock the door and bring along his bike, Rusty, not wanting to leave it out in the rain. Bellevue Hospital, under the pouring night, felt more vast and desolate than ever. Eli sat for hours in the waiting room, soaked to the skin, heart pounding with anxiety. A kind nurse brought him a blanket and a cup of hot cocoa, but he didn't drink. He only waited. Eventually, the doctor appeared, his face serious. "Your mother has severe pneumonia. Good thing you brought her in on time. But she needs to stay for at least a week under observation." A week? Eli felt like lightning had struck. A week without his mother. A week to survive on his own. He nodded slowly and asked, "Can I see her?" "Just for a few minutes." "She's very weak," the doctor replied. Eli stepped into the room. His mother lay there, frail and thinner than ever. He held her hand and whispered, "Rest well, Mom. I'll take care of everything." Dawn broke as Eli left the hospital. He went to retrieve his bike from the public rack, but Rusty was gone. He panicked, running in circles, asking the guards, "Did you see an old red bike here?" "Sorry, kid. Bikes get stolen all the time around here," one guard said sympathetically. Eli's heart sank. He stood motionless for a long time, refusing to believe it. The bike, his only friend, his only transport, his father's last gift, was gone. He roamed the surrounding blocks, checking alleys, bus stops, even trash bins. He called out Rusty, as though calling a lost friend. But only silence and the distant hum of city traffic answered back. Eli still went to school. still visited the hospital each afternoon. But without his bike, he had to walk nearly an hour each way. He woke earlier, got home later, and was more exhausted than ever. Some days, the rain soaked through his shoes. Other days, his stomach growled from hunger, but he still saved his money to buy his mom's vitamins. Miss Carter began to notice how Eli had grown quieter, his eyes heavier with worry. One afternoon, she called him aside after class. "Eli, are you doing okay?" He nodded, but the red rims around his eyes said otherwise. About a week later, as his mother began to recover and could speak again, Eli sat beside her bed, sharing stories of each day, but he left out the stolen bike. But she knew. "Where's Rusty, honey?" "I left it outside the hospital, and it was gone when I came back." She didn't scold him. She simply reached up to stroke his hair and whispered, "It's okay. We still have each other, and that's what matters." Eli broke down and cried for the first time since everything happened. That afternoon, when Eli got home, he found a small package at the door. On it, a note read, "To Eli, keep dreaming. From Miss Carter." Inside was a detailed drawing of the Brooklyn Bridge, a sketch pad, and a few mechanical pencils. Miss Carter knew Eli had never asked for anything, but she had seen in his eyes an entire city of dreams, just waiting to be drawn. The storm had taken everything familiar, his mother's health, his beloved bike. But within that loss, Eli discovered a deeper strength, powered by love, kindness, and a fragile but persistent hope. His dreams still lived on, untouched by thieves or storms.